because sometimes they're just like taking these flyers. They're just parking money. They have thousands and thousands of Ethereum and they just need somewhere to put it. And I think we're going to see more projects that want to do that. And like I said, there's, I can't name them, but there's at least 4 or 5 different projects that we've had conversations with. And as soon as the bridge is deployed, it's game on. There's going to be EOS tokens on Ethereum. There's going to be Ethereum tokens on EOS, and it's all going to be made possible because of the DAPP network bridge.
Layer 1 is a podcast and community dedicated to helping you master all things crypto. We'll be bringing you the best interviews with project executives, technical analysis for trading of the most popular cryptocurrencies, and insight into what's actually happening behind the scenes.
As you join us each episode, you're going to hear about tokens, fundraisers, investments, and even crypto conspiracies. But please remember that nothing we say should be considered financial or legal advice.
Come join us on this journey and welcome to Layer 1. All right, good morning, good evening, good night. What you're about to hear is the best episode that Layer 1 has ever put out. This is going to be amazing. I'm going to add this disclaimer in here. I will get to our guest in a second, but I want to talk to Dimitri here real quick. Dimitri, what's going on, man? What shirt are you wearing?
Yeah, man, I'm super excited for today's interview. Obviously, as you can see, I got my ICOAlert shirt. You wearing ICOAlert gear. So we got a special guest. Who do we have, Q?
Yeah, we have the man, the myth, the legend. He's already giggling.
This is the ICOAlert podcast. This is actually my original home. So I for those who don't know who the hell I am, I'm Zach. Let me go through all my plugs before we get into this interview. So I used to work with these guys. We all kind of got our starts in our full-time crypto careers at a company called ICOAlert. I'm sure you guys have reminisced about it in past episodes. Your audience knows Definitely. All about the ICOAlert. And whenever you guys rebranded to the Layer 1, I'm sure a lot of that carried over. But I'm basically through and through an EOS diehard. I got my start. I have my own podcast, Everything EOS. It actually originated on this channel. You guys, I just want to call you guys out there. You guys are censoring me. If I go back in the history of the Layer 1 podcast chronologically, I go all the way to the bottom. You removed me from your history. But for those watching, if you'd like to watch the classics, you got to click on the playlists. Go to the playlist on the Layer 1 podcast. There's a bunch of unlisted podcasts.
Guys, I left the playlist just for you, Gall. It could have hidden everything.
I complained. This is bullshit. You can't censor me. I got my start there.
Yeah, guys, we're going to go through Gall's history here. We usually do like a whole question sheet that we send to the guests and all of this kind of research. And certainly we've researched DAPP, we've researched Vigor, but definitely like we're going to riff this episode. We don't have any questions put together. We're going to talk about kind of our history together. We all kind of threw ICOAlert stuff on as Gall kind of hopped on and had his ICOAlert stuff on. So
Deem already had his on. You were the only one that didn't think of it. Deem and I didn't. We haven't talked in like a year and a half, and we effing we were the same shirts.
Okay,
we're vibing.
I got you.
You mentioned my projects, man. I gotta plug some things before we start BSing here. So I'm the community manager, head of community, whatever you want to call me. I do a podcast there too on LiquidApps.io. We're a Layer 2 scaling solution, a middleware layer on top of EOS blockchain, on top of the Ethereum blockchain. All about interoperability and scalability. We'll get into some of that later. Vigor.ai, Vigor DAC. It's probably the hottest DeFi project on EOS. I'm one of the top 21 custodians on there. Moderator of the EOS Reddit, admin on the main EOS Telegram channel. Follow me on Twitter, Everything EOS IO. All right, those are my plugs. Let's get into it.
Yeah, man, we've been riffing a while with some of the guys from ICOAlert. I know it's been about 2 years, as you said, like since kind of like the ICO bubble kind of faded, and we all kind of went our separate ways, but we still keep in contact. Still definitely hardcore in the community, man. So yeah, Layer 1's been awesome, as you said. We've had this channel for a long time, and just being able to kind of create cool content and still connect with guys like you on Layer 1 is amazing, man.
You guys did it right though. So I niched myself. I'm basically this EOS diehard. I'm like the glue of EOS. Like Rob left me, so it's pretty much just me. As far as like the EOS diehards that aren't block producers, but there's a whole group of us though. That's what's so cool about Vigor, is that everyone who's still left in the EOS community that's like hardcore, like good workers, technically talented, or good like marketing connections with other projects, like we're all part of the DAC. So that's one of the really cool things about the people that are left. But you guys didn't niche yourself into a specific project or blockchain. So you guys have had some really cool guests on. And I wish I could, I guess, bring some of them on. Like I remember the Celsius guy, whenever we met him at Token Fest. I saw you guys had him on since then. I can't even remember his damn name.
Alex Mashinsky.
Alex, yeah, dude, he's a character, man. He's hilarious every time.
Definitely, dude. Yo, so this is what we want to do, because the main thing we talked about like pre-episode was like we have to stay on some sort of schedule, or we're just going to find ourselves down any rabbit hole. So this is what we're going to do. I want to talk about the early days of ICOalert from your eyes, because that's kind of how you found yourself in crypto, and that's always the story we kind of like to tell. So break that down from your perspective, how you got yourself into crypto, and then make your way into ICOalert, and we'll see how far we go down.
So early 2017, I guess, was the last time I worked a regular job. So prior to pretty much going full-time crypto, I was working for a nonprofit blood bank. My job was to basically run the blood drives for all of the high schools and colleges in all of Western Pennsylvania. Like, I worked with all of them, gave big presentations, like thousands of people. Basically, I was a storyteller. I was trying to get people to volunteer to do something good and to benefit the local hospitals. And I did really good at that. But then prior to that, I worked in technology my whole life, actually. Like, I kind of bounced around, and I decided that I wanted to go full-time and back into tech. So I quit my job. I had enough money saved. It wasn't a problem to quit my job. My wife just finished grad school. So she got her first full-time job and was able to pick up the health insurance. Health insurance was real big for me. So I couldn't ever quit my job and go out on my own until I had the whole health insurance thing figured out. So I'm diabetic. I got things attached to me here, little thing. But anyway, yeah. So I was able to take that leap early 2017. And I went and did a 3-month boot camp for Code Academy, basically, to learn how to build something, because I had something I wanted to build related to the blood banking industry. And it happened to have a blockchain tie-in. And I was like, I'm going to build this myself. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. So I started doing all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, all of my crypto bags started mooning. And then all of a sudden, my priorities changed. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be a professional investor now. And I just started getting crazy into projects, into the ICOs. It's crazy because back then, the projects we were getting into was Chainlink. ICO was September 2017. But I was telling my wife, I was like, I want to figure out how I could do this full time. I want to teach more people about this. This is the future of money. I was drinking all the Kool-Aid, and I was at a tech networking event. I ran into this girl I went to high school with, and she's like, I saw your LinkedIn and it said something about blockchain. Are you what do you know about that? And I was like, oh, you asked the wrong question, lady. Literally for the next 2 hours, I talked to her. And the reason she asked me that is because she was the recruiter for ICOalert. So. Oh, wow. ICOalert was looking for their first employees. So at the time it was Q, Rob Finch, and Mike Finch. And that was the three amigos, and the company didn't even have an office yet. They're working out of Rob Finch's apartment. Yep. And they brought me on as their first hire. I mean, I skipped the whole interview process. She introduced us. It was great. And then we basically were sort of a family. We had a little ICOalert family there. It grew very quickly. Who's Kyle? I actually was at Kyle's wedding last summer. It was a good time. Oh, wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I try to stay in touch, and there's a big important event like this podcast here.
I think Gall was the main piece in hiring actually me for ICOalert, because he was talking to Mike Finch about getting more people, and he told him to post the job opening on Indeed, which is where I found the job. I applied and I got the job, and so without Gall, I wouldn't actually be in ICOalert. I guess I wouldn't discover that job posting. So that was pretty crazy. But yeah, so with ICOalert, once you were in. We obviously saw all these projects coming through, right? Some of them were Chainlink, they were Celsius, they were legit, they're operating companies now, and they're very successful. But we did see a lot of garbage there too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, tell our viewers kind of what was the process there?
So I guess we should all of our roles kind of you and Q were kind of on the sales team. I was more on the technical team, but also the project analyst team. We had these hybrid roles. So basically, there were dozens of ICOs coming in every day. And as we know, a lot of them were pretty scammy or shady or just crappy ideas. But we didn't discriminate discriminate against crappy ideas. Pretty much we had like different thresholds. Like if you were like definitely a scam, we wouldn't even let you touch the website, which had like thousands of ICOs on it, even if it was a bad idea. But it had to like meet like a higher threshold for us to like want to partner with them or work with them. Because our website, we were number 1 or number 2. I think we were number 2 or 3 actually on Google for the search term ICO. So we basically had the best SEO in the game at the time, and we're getting just like thousands of visitors per day. So we had like very valuable web property there, and we were able to sell advertisement. Remember, Q, whenever we had the top banner, like the banner on the top of a website.
Oh yeah.
Like we could throw a price. It was like $1,000 a day.
Yeah,
God's letting the info go.
And we had that shit sold out for months in advance, and before the market crashed, of course.
Yeah, I remember we used to have the big screen pulled up with all the stats, and you would just see. I mean, at one point we had 1 million visitors in a month, which to like maybe outside the larger, broader crypto community, that's not a lot, but in the crypto community, that's absolutely gigantic. And we were rolling, man. We were rolling, definitely.
So a big part of like my job was we collected, I forget how many data points, like 200 different data points on every ICO, because in the short term, we're killing it with marketing. Like, I don't even want to get into like our gross monthlies and stuff, but it was a lot. But we knew that wasn't like the long-term business model at the time. The long-term business model, because we really did believe that this is like the next stage of venture capital at the time. Like everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid. And our long-term business model was to be like a data company. So we were collecting like enormous amounts of data on every single project that came through our door that wasn't an outright scam. And it was like a tedious effort, but it kind of, you read all the white papers, you talked to all of the teams, you understood like what everyone was doing, and you really had like a 360-degree view of the space. And what we were, it's funny how we went from there to here, because like we talked about how we didn't list any scams, but like lately, like the last couple of months, especially in like Ethereum DeFi, it's really blown up. Let me ask you this, guys. If you would have seen a project called Yam, where back in 2017, whenever we were vetting these projects, if you saw someone that was saying we want to make some pasta, shrimps, yams, grow some farms, doing basically what the DeFi game is, like look at Ample, things like that with that crazy rebase and just doing crazy shit with like daily debasing or rebasing. Like, would you have looked at that project and be like, this is a legit project, we're definitely going to give these guys a call?
You know, I would reach out to them just to find out what the hell are they doing, like what is going into that. You know, and usually on those projects like there's no identity, right? There's no team right behind it that is displayed, so that would go off our list pretty quickly, right? So we have to be able to verify the team.
Yeah, it's likely that they wouldn't have been listed at all. You're right. And I think the major difference is in DeFi, you kind of have that product almost like the next day, right? Like there's this ideation period and then there's a product. Whereas in ICOs, this roadmap was like 6 months down the road. We're going to do the launch, but we're going to do this token sale now and raise all this money.
So you've heard the phrase like building on top of the shoulders of giants. Like the technology just keeps getting better. Like 2017 had all these great ideas, but the technology wasn't quite ready yet. Like with all of these DeFi projects, they're basically just forking synthetics, forking like a piece of like Wi-Fi, for example, and just like making these forks and basically mashing them together, and they have a product in like a week. You couldn't do that in 2017 because the products didn't exist to fork and build. And that's kind of like what we do at LiquidApps, which is the project that I manage the community and partnerships and developer relations with. We basically build generalized tools and services that are useful for almost any project. So like unlimited storage, like IPFS storage, it's kind of like Filecoin, it has that service. Oracle is kind of like Chainlink. The random number generators, just like Chainlink. Free accounts, all kinds of different stuff. I'm not going to really get into too much detail, but what we're trying to do is to kind of build like the base layer infrastructure so you could just build projects more quickly on top of it. And like a lot of the projects that are working with us have shed like 6 months off of their development times. And if you look in Ethereum DeFi, they're shedding even more of that, because these projects, they're spinning up from idea to first iteration in like a week. And it's kind of unprecedented.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, speaking about the like the DeFi sector, and it's basically derivatives that are blowing up right now. If you think of like synthetics, right, and all the products that have been offered, which is essentially huge for the industry in general. When we had derivatives, just options itself blowing up, earlier this year. Where it actually helps the volatility kind of the price action. It's a useful tool in the industry. But with these oracles in DeFi, it seems like a lot of DeFi projects are moving extremely fast because they want to capture the theme or the market hype that's going on right now. And it kind of, do you feel like you've seen that the quality of the projects are like, becoming less and less valuable, and more saturated in volume? So it's hard to find like good ones, kind of like the ICO era that we had, where there's so many ICOs and it's kind of hard to find really that curated list of good ones.
yeah, I think that what we're in right now is like a moment in time. Like we're gonna look back on this because there's not that many options. Like YFI caught lightning in a bottle, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's so many different competitors doing the exact same thing. And for the reason I said, like you could just fork it and create a clone. All of these teams are like one or two people. Some of them are anonymous, but basically they're just putting a couple different building blocks together. And each one of those building blocks have ideally been audited. I know not all of these projects have been audited, but I think that like as the market gets saturated, it's going to be harder to find the yields that we're seeing today, just because everyone's going to get kind of diluted out. And I also think that we haven't really seen a reckoning yet since DeFi really took off. Like a lot of the yield farming is basically you have an asset, whether it's EOS, Ethereum, Chainlink, whatever, you have some crypto asset and you borrow a bunch of stable coins against it. And then you lock those stable coins into an interest yielding platform of some sort, whether it's Compound or something else.
Liquidity pool.
A liquidity pool.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens whenever the US dollar value of everything starts tanking? Like when Bitcoin takes its first like 30% drop since the DeFi boom really took off, I think we're just going to see like massive liquidations. I think what we saw back in March, I hope it's not that bad because hopefully we won't have the global uncertainty surrounding it. And hopefully we'll have some whales jump in and play plunge protection team here, which we didn't have in March. I think everyone was spooked out. But I think there's going to be a shakeout in DeFi and probably across the whole ecosystem. But it's just a lot of leverage right now. I think there's a lot of people that are putting a lot of money at risk for like what seems like great gains. But once you get liquidated, how good were those gains if you didn't take a profit? But I'm playing the games with everyone though. I'm just trying to be very careful with it, managing my risk, and that's why I really like the Vigor platform. So I'm gonna get back into that plug. And
yeah, I want to touch before we get into Vigor because we do want to get kind of a deep dive into DAPP. Let's touch on kind of the market as we stand here today, because back when we were at ICOAlert, you saw that big run up with Bitcoin alongside what was happening in ICO. So we haven't really seen that. Bitcoin's been kind of like ranging a little bit. I mean, I think it's at 11.3 today. There was like a big like public movement into cryptocurrencies at the time when those ICOs occurred. It doesn't seem like that's the case now. So what do you make of like the general public not being in this run? Do you think that there's a moment in time where we are going to see that part of this cycle where your mother is like rushing into Bitcoin and trying to buy this?
I don't think they need to. I mean, the players that are in the space this time, like the infrastructure wasn't there. The custodial solutions weren't around in 2017. Like the people buying Bitcoin, especially right now, are basically one institution makes up for like a million retail investors. Like we see, what a Grayscale, is that the name of the fund that's just been buying up all of the mined Bitcoin since the halvening? And then just like anyone that follows like off the chain, and Pump's like talking to pension funds, and he's basically just like saying, put like 0.25% of your portfolio into Bitcoin, and it's like a hedge against everything else. Like how many, it doesn't take many large institutions and pension funds to make a lot of money, or to become a lot of money, I should say.
In regards to DeFi, specifically the day of reckoning, like the way I see like the credit bubble that's going on right now, and when the unwinding happens, it's really going to obviously clog up the network, Ethereum network. The fees are going to go crazy. The liquidations are going to be stuck. You wouldn't be able to pull even liquidity from liquidity pools because of the same thing. You wouldn't be able to get out of positions because of the same thing. So what do you see, some of these guys that, you talk to, like, it seems like we've had these guests that are on the front lines. We had Ave on, talk about it. We had multiple guests that talked about these issues, and they confirmed. They're like, yeah, that will happen, like, the way it is, now. So, and some of them are kind of working on solutions. So do you think, like, EOS came out saying, hey, listen, we're going to be doing DeFi now, and are there going to be like solutions that might actually appear before the reckoning day, or will we go through actual like reckoning, for people to be like, okay, listen, that was actually a legit issue. We're going to start moving into like some other stuff like EOS or like other networks that do higher TPS, less congestion, and so on.
So everyone's got these bag buy. I don't know if there's going to be a mass migration, but I think there'll be a mass migration off of the base layer onto like
second layer,
layer twos or middlewares or whatever you want to call them. But there's so many of them with like the ZK rollups, the optimistic rollups. There's loop rings, really cool on Ethereum. And then just recently with LiquidApps, we announced an EOS to Ethereum bridge, which could be run to any EOS IO chain, where basically tokens and data could just be passed cross-chain seamlessly back and forth. So whenever you think about, like, whenever you deposit funds into an exchange or something, like, I'm trying to think of a good way to explain it, of how I see it happening. But I think in the next couple of months, or maybe a little bit longer, that you're going to be able to use your MetaMask keys, and you're going to be able to interact with dapps on Ethereum. And whenever you're depositing tokens into a platform as collateral or trading them on a DEX, you might be on another blockchain or like a layer 2 or like a Polkadot chain, and you're not even going to notice it because you're just going to be using the same Ethereum keys. So I think it's just going to be really seamless. And I think that there's probably about 10 different companies all blazing trails and doing a lot of interesting stuff. But like with LiquidApps, like our core team, like our CTO is Tal Muscal. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met in the space. He built Bancor X. So he came from Bancor before he was with LiquidApps, and he basically built a token relay between Ethereum and EOS. And he basically took some of the stuff he learned at that time, and he's applying it today. And we're basically on the brink of having one of the best scaling solutions, in my opinion, for Ethereum. Up until this point, we've been around for the last year and a half. We've probably been the best, arguably. So I think the two best projects on EOS are the two projects. I'm biased here, but Vigor and LiquidApps. And we've just been building some of the best tech. I mean, I'm not a blockchain developer myself, so to speak. I can code and stuff, but like the stuff we're building is really, really making it possible to build enterprise applications, like DAPP specific applications that basically mesh networks that hash to the mainnet, native Oracle systems, unlimited memory, basically building an application as if you weren't building on a blockchain. And that's kind of like the goal here, is to basically run everything. And if you look at Block One's messaging, what they're trying to do with EOS, like there's a lot of comparisons, like EOS is getting crushed in DeFi, and that's definitely the case. But EOS and Block One, the goal is to kind of replace databases. Like think about how many databases there are in the world. There's millions and millions and millions of databases. If all of those databases just sent like a Merkle root or a hash to a public network every minute or every 30 seconds or even every 10 minutes, that's going to be an enormous amount of like transactional throughput. And that's going to be enough to, I think, sustain EOS as a chain. I'm all over the place here. I'm going from DAPP to Vigor to EOS.
You're fine. I kind of wanted to wrap a bow on ICOalert, but I'll just ask that question at the end. So right after ICOalert, you kind of moved into everything EOS. You guys hosted, you still host to this day, an amazing podcast. So I kind of want to touch on EOS. You did a little bit there, but you guys are super involved in that ecosystem. We cover it weekly, but certainly not to the level that you would get from like everything EOS. So I mean, EOS is a common punching bag these days. We know it had that huge run up to to about $20. I don't want to talk too much price, but from your perspective, having been in the EOS ecosystem, I know you're chomping at the bit to touch about VIG, Vigor Stablecoin, which is DeFi on EOS. What's it going to take to get the broader community behind EOS and more positive sentiment? I love the point that you made on that huge interview you did on Everything EOS about Dan and Brendan. I think having them back has kind of stimulated the community a little bit. These chains need leaders, and I think that was a great point you made. But just in general, where has EOS kind of come, and then where are we going?
So EOS, the biggest thing it's lacking is liquidity right now. So there's just so much untapped potential. Like the technology is some of the best in the world comparing to any blockchain. But the liquidity is not there. So DeFi really doesn't work unless you have the liquidity. And that's like Ethereum's superpower, because it surely isn't the transactional throughput or the fees, but people are still using it anyway, because that's where the liquidity is. So what I think is going to happen is, one, EOS Finex, which is Bitfinex's DEX. It's currently going through beta testing. I know a couple of people in the beta test, and they're having rave reviews on it. So I think one of the first things that needs to happen is that more exchanges need to be able to withdraw tether onto the EOS mainnet. Because right now, if I'm on Binance and I have tether on there and I want to withdraw it, the only options I have, I think you could withdraw it to Tron, and I think you could withdraw it to Ethereum right now. But there's no option to like withdraw to EOS, which is a kind of sucks actually. So things like that need to happen. And then the other big thing that I think is going to happen is Block One. I think by the end of this year, early next year, they're going to be deploying a financial product that they've kind of dropped some hints about, but they're basically building a regulated exchange that's going to be completely built on blockchain, top to bottom. And it's going to have tokenized Bitcoin on it. And when I say tokenized Bitcoin, they have 140,000 Bitcoin in their treasury at Block One. And I don't imagine that they're going to lock all of it onto this EOS.io chain and tokenize it. But I do think they'll lock a chunk of it on, which is and they're also going to, Brendan Bloomer gave an interview where he was describing how the financial product is going to work. And what he sounded like he was describing was liquidity pools, kind of like you have on Uniswap, where you basically stake your liquidity and you collect on the fees. And I have a strong feeling that that's what they're building, and they're going to have the biggest Bitcoin liquidity pool in the world. So basically, if you're a Bitcoin trader, whether you like EOS or you don't like EOS or EOS.io even, you're probably going to want to use this exchange to arbitrage against, because it's going to have this giant Bitcoin liquidity pool that you could drop massive orders into, and it's going to have the liquidity depth to handle it. And I don't think, I think that's what's going to set it apart. But then it's going to have hopefully a withdraw onto the EOS blockchain also. And I think that's where a lot of liquidity is going to pour in, is from this exchange into the EOS ecosystem. I know Yves LaRose, the CEO of the #1 block producer on EOS, he talks to a lot of the biggest whales, all the exchanges and all the other block producers. And he knows from these conversations that there's kind of a migration of capital about to pour in. I've heard a couple $1 million, or not a couple, but tens of millions of dollars of tethers are going to be printed on EOS within the next couple months. But once we have all this capital on the chain, what do you do with it? And I think we have all these DeFi products popping up. Like Vigor is one of the biggest ones right now. And it's in a closed public mainnet launch right now. It works. I have a $20,000 loan on it right now. It works. I'm borrowing against my crypto. And what products like that do, and I guess for those watching, just think of it like MakerDAO, but way, way better. And I could get into the nuances of why, but I'm not really trying to do that right now. The idea behind it is that you already have this crypto, but if you don't want to sell that crypto, it doesn't really do anything for you. You could stake it maybe and get some interest or some yield off of it, but you can't really do much else with it. But whenever you have products like Vigor or like Equilibrium or like something similar to MakerDAO, we're able to tap into the untapped liquidity within the assets that you're holding. So if I already hold a bunch of EOS, I could generate stable coins against that EOS, and I could go buy more EOS. I could lever up, or I could buy altcoins and lever those up. And you're basically getting all of this unlocked liquidity that wasn't there before. And Vigor is about to launch public soon. It's DAC run, never raised a cent of funding. Like we talked about ICOAlert before. That's one of the coolest things about this project is didn't raise a dime of funding, was completely grassroots. I was like the 5th member of the Telegram channel. So I found this group like last March, and they've been building ever since. Like the core development team, like they worked for like 7 months before the token was even tradable. It was on just test nets. Like it had a lot of risk still, and now there's a lot less risk. But the code's there to unlock multi-collateral portfolios. And like the white paper author of Vigor, his name's Andrew. He basically was one of the original employees at MakerDAO, and he's just this financial guru. He's like a Harvard quant, and math is his game, man. And basically on other like MakerDAO, whenever you have a multi-collateral wallet, each collateral is kind of like a different position, I guess. Like if you have an Ethereum position on MakerDAO, and you also have what is it called? Is it SDAI? What's the alt version of the DAI? SAI. All right,
Yeah,
so
Psy.
it's like 2 different positions. Like if you get liquidated on one, you're not liquidated on the other, but your collateral is not actually taken into account either. Whereas on Vigor, it is a multi-collateral wallet in the truest sense, like a centralized platform where you could have a basket of assets. So you could have a basket of Vigor, and I don't want to drop names of the next tokens that'll probably be added because it hasn't been decided yet. But if you look at like the top 5 most liquid tokens on EOS, they're likely the first ones that are going to get added as collateral types. So let's say you're someone that owns a bunch of, I don't want to name my own project, so I'll say IQ. Let's say you have a bunch of IQ tokens, and like they're not super liquid, but they're liquid enough if you want to sell a few $1,000s worth, you're good. You'll be able to lock those up, for example, and borrow stable coins against them. Then you have all this extra money to do whatever you want with. And I think it's going to pour liquidity into the rest of the projects, increase trading volumes. And whenever with a basket of assets, the risk ratio is improved. Like it takes into account the liquidity depth, the volume, the books of all your different assets. And it's a variable interest rate. So that's another difference also, is like on MakerDAO, I forget what the interest rate is on a loan, but it's a set percentage. Where on Vigor, if your risk is low, you're paying as little as 0.5% interest rate. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot of these DeFi protocols from Ethereum. I think we're going to start seeing them port over to EOS, except they're going to be different because they're going to have 0 fees essentially. Like the cost of one transaction on Ethereum could get you thousands on an EOS IO chain. And I think that for a lot of the smaller investors, that's going to make a big difference, because that's one of the things I noticed on Uniswap is like, I'm making like $1,000 trade. Like it's fine paying $7.
Yeah.
But for the people that are like trading like $50 at a time, like it doesn't even make sense to trade like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, I love that. And I've been kind of talking about how these, you know, like for example, EOS, if they're going to be rolling out DeFi products, I think first thing that people look at is also the kind of the yields that are going to be offered, right? We know that on Ethereum, we have these DeFi projects that go through a period of high yields and then eventually they come down. And then, you know, the system works, new project comes out, they have higher yields again, they hop around into this next project until the yields come down. So it's a chase for the yield. And, you know, for EOS, if they're going to be rolling out a DeFi, yield is going to be a huge thing. Also, you know, all the benefits that you mentioned in terms of using the basket of currencies as a collateral rather than a single currency, that really diversifies your margin that you're using for trading. So that's, you know, that's absolutely cool.
Something you could do on EOS that you can't do on Ethereum is EOS, when you stake EOS into like a reward proxy, which is like voter rewards for staking, you could earn anywhere between 2.5 to up to 4% APR on your EOS. A lot of these lending platforms, the interest rate, depending on your risk level on Vigor, or if you're on Equilibrium, it's like a 2% flat rate interest. If your interest rate to borrow, if your interest rate to generate stable tokens is less than the yield that you're earning for your collateral type, it becomes a negative interest rate.
Yep.
That is what's going to make EOS DeFi explode, is because negative interest rates, like the same thing that we like to call out the government for doing. That's what you're able to do with the platform that has like base level staking. And it could work for like DAPP level staking too. Like I don't know what there is on Ethereum, but you'll still have the fees involved. I think Tezos has a chance to have some cool DeFi too, because they already have like the baking model. And I think that's like what's that yield set at, like 6 or 7%?
Something like that. But when can we expect this, man? When is it gonna roll out?
So by the end of September, I'd say for Vigor, all the code's done. It was audited by a company called Central. They're one of the top auditing firms within the space. We're just basically everything's bootstrapped, grassroots, and we're just trying to make sure everything's battle tested. We really wanted to wait for the audit to get finished, which happened last Monday. I think it came in. So now there's just some last minute changes. Like the platform works. If you want to use it now, you can sign up for the DAPP. Basically, the requirement is you have to get a vote from a custodian. So if you got a vote from me, for example, you'd be able to use the platform today. It's just closed for like the public usage, just because we don't want to have like a DAO, like the DAO moment. And that's not going to happen.
EOS had a situation come up recently around governance. And one of the coolest things that I think about EOS is that we've been kind of doing, or EOS has been kind of doing governance for a long time now, right? Like, and there were some missteps, right? We had was it ECAF?
ECAF,
yeah. That ECAF mishap. We won't even go there, but we did have Colin Talks Crypto kind of come out and kind of speak out against these exchanges voting with users' funds. We got into a little bit of a spaff. I think he said shame on me at one point. I'll talk with Colin at another point, but I wonder what you make of this governance situation happening with EOS. What do you physically think about these exchanges voting with user funds? I know EOS Nation was brought up multiple times. So what do you make of that situation?
I think that some of the exchanges, if you read into their terms and conditions, like when you deposit funds into an exchange, you're basically giving them permission to do whatever they want with your tokens. Like I use crypto.com. I got my crypto.com debit card right here. And they have different yields in their platform. And if you read the terms and conditions, like if I deposit EOS into their platform, it has like an 8% yield with a 3-month lockup. But if you read the terms and conditions, it says like they might trade out of your EOS and into all kinds of other positions, like while you're not holding it. And I think a lot of the other exchanges, especially the ones that have margin trading, that's kind of how they work, is by like loaning out your assets and doing all kinds of different things with it. Like if you're giving them permission to loan out your assets for someone else's margin and things like that, I think you're likely giving them permission to vote with it also. But I haven't read all of the terms and conditions on all of them, but I think that it is there. As far as the problems, I don't know if there's necessarily a problem. Like the EOS network is running more transactions than any other network, lowest transaction fees. And I think the exchange is getting involved. I think they're getting more active than they've ever been. So we talked about what's it going to take for EOS DeFi to take off? Well, one of the number 24, 25 block producer is Binance. Like Binance just entered the party last May. Oh, wow. So all it would take with Binance listing some more EOS tokens, right? They listed their very first EOS token a couple weeks ago, which was Everipedia IQ. And once you add the first one, it's really easy to add additional ones. And that's another one of the issues with EOS is exchange listings, because the infrastructure is different for like for their security systems and their infrastructure that they have set up at exchanges. It's a lot harder not harder, but it's just different for them to set something up for an EOS native token compared to like an ERC20 token, because ERC20, it's a known standard. It's pretty much every project, and it's like just plug and play for the exchanges to add new tokens. But that's also part of the strategy, like with LiquidApps, where we got this ERC20 token bridge that we're basically not deploying, but releasing the code for a template of how to do that. So any EOS project, whether it be Shintai checks or IQ or any other token, they could create an ERC20 peg that basically it shares the same supply. It's kind of like a lock and mint on both chains, and it's all trustless. And they could actually get their Ethereum token listed on a lot of these centralized exchanges that they would have a really hard time getting an EOS token listed on. I think we're going to start seeing stuff like that in the next couple of months also.
So there's going to be EOS tokens represented by ERC20 tokens, essentially, on these exchanges.
There's a couple of projects that like we were explaining like the bridge and what we were trying to do with, and that was like at the tip of their tongue. That is like this is amazing. This is what we want to do with it. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, let's talk voice thoughts, because you guys were obviously out there when the announcement was dropped. It was a really cool event, and voice, has had a couple of announcements come out, and now they're finally launched. Right, they're launched to the world. What do you make of Voice's success? Were there some failures? I know you're a main power user there. I think they announced like a top 50 or top 100, and you were definitely on that list. I've seen you post there. We'll probably post this episode on Voice. So what do you make of Voice's success so far, or where do you see the shortcomings?
So the shortcomings are that like it's lacking a lot of features that you would expect from a centralized platform today, like a Reddit, like a simple search, for example. They don't have that yet. You can't filter your timeline based on like only like your friends, which is like a feature dead simple that I wish they would have. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a lot going on under the hood with the technology. And I think that they're going to onboard a lot of users. And I think that it's pretty clear to me that there's going to be an interfacing with the EOS mainnet, whether it be by hashes or by the token, the voice token itself living there. But Salah, I can't even say his name, the CEO of Voice, he left a comment on a Voice post the other day saying that there's 70,000 people in queue to sign up right now. So right now there's about 10,000 people, I believe, on Voice. And there's a queue of 70,000 people that have already tried signing up, and they're basically in a queue. And like I said, the platform's it's got a nice UX UI. It's probably one of the nicest, if you want to call it a DAPP, it's probably one of the nicest looking DApps you ever find. But it's like missing features that are going to be required for it to reach a mainstream adoption. But I think they're on the right path, and I think by the time they're ready to have like a public mainstream launch, I think they'll have all of this stuff ironed out. But whenever you talk about DeFi, like Ethereum DeFi, as big as it is and how much liquidity there is, we're really only talking about a couple thousand people, maybe at the most, just with a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be like different kind of DeFi. Like if I'm not going to go through what the Voice It game is, but just playing the Voice It game is kind of like DeFi. Like you're basically, it's like gambling. That's DeFi. But I think if you can onboard users like that, and basically if you want to, once you're able to withdraw those voice tokens, I think you're going to be able to withdraw them and trade them for other cryptos. I think it'll be really easy to like load up on Bitcoin if you don't want voice tokens, or load up on EOS. And I think there's going to be a tie-in with the Block One exchange that they're building, because what's one requirement for every exchange, every major regulated exchange, and that's a KYC. Right. Every user on Voice who withdraws their tokens is going to have to go through a KYC. So you don't have to go through a KYC anymore to sign up. But once your tokens have value and you want to cash them out, you're going to have to go through a KYC process, and it's probably going to take you to an exchange. And I feel like that exchange is going to be the Block One exchange, and everyone's going to be KYC'd. So you're going to have millions of users who are able to fluidly trade in and out of crypto. And I feel like that's going to be a big DeFi moment, of like a mainstream DeFi moment where people are kind of like gambling with like much lower amounts, but much more volume of people.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that authentic user, or the KYC, because I know that like one of the original plans for it was to have no bots, right? Like, are they abandoning that narrative and saying, okay, we're not going to KYC anymore, anybody can come on until you want to cash out? Have they abandoned that narrative?
So right now it's still beta. Like they said publicly that they're going to do probably 2 more token resets. So right now, because the tokens don't have any value and it's a beta, I think that they changed the rules to proof of liveliness, or proof of human, where they use this technology that basically it's kind of like Face ID on steroids, where it like basically it takes a video and it like I don't know all the different exploits you could do, but it's a technology called Face Tech, and it's like a third party that they're using, but they have these YouTube videos of them trying to game it. Like you could wear like a prosthetic mask and it doesn't let you it's pretty intense, but you could beat that right now because they're not using a facial recognition database. So right now, since they changed it a couple weeks ago, you could create a duplicate account, because whenever you sign up it's not requiring your driver's license anymore. It's just requiring like a proof that you're a human. It's not taking like the picture or video proof of you being a human and comparing it against the rest of the database to make sure you don't have another account. But in the future, it's going to be weighted towards your invites. So I was on a product call with some of the voice people. They do these open office hours where they take community feedback, and we talked about the invites. And it seems apparent to me that these invite codes, you can't just sign up for voice. You have to have someone else invite you in. That's going to be another piece to the puzzle for unique identity, is if they're not doing a KYC, that you have to prove that you're human, and you have to have someone else who prove that they're human invite you in. So then if you invite a bunch of bots, you're going to be able to like trace it back to the account that invited you back in the first place. And if you, I could go down a lot of rabbit holes. There's some patents I've gone through. There's some intense stuff that's going to come in the future. But I think that they've got some good plans to keep bots out.
Yeah.
And even if you can get a bot on the platform, you're not going to be able to withdraw any value out of the platform. So it's kind of stuck inside it.
I see. Would the bot be able to prop up maybe some of the posts that I'm posting, or
yeah, so
deliver
right now,
value to me? And the bot is not going to extract that. That's fine. As long as I can extract that, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about these exploits. You could do that right now. Like if you had an account, or your girlfriend or wife had an account, you could just like voice back and forth your posts. Like I said, this is still beta. I'm not part of the voice team. I don't know everything that they're doing, but it is beta right now. And they said that they kind of like loosened the restrictions because they're more interested in getting product feedback and stress testing their platform with more users rather than trying to create a bunch of friction and barrier to entry, because like the KYC was a burden, man. Like there are so many people that like would have signed up for voice if they didn't have to do a KYC. So I think it's a happy middle ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's just kind of zoom out also on EOS and kind of talk about the other stuff that's going on, right? So, for example, like the stable coins have been pretty hot on Ethereum, given the economic, issues that are going on right now in different countries. A lot of people are trying to, let's say, diversify, get into dollar. Sometimes the governments actually clamp down on them, shut down those gateways to get into dollar from their local currency. Is something like that happening on EOS where, maybe EOS has some teams, boots on the ground, they're trying to promote more EOS in those areas that are unstable, maybe give them alternatives on, for cryptocurrencies, onboarding and so on?
Yeah, EOS Nation, hands down. They're basically building the plumbing and infrastructure behind the scenes. Like they've got some amazing arbitrage market maker bots going on, like that make the markets efficient. For the stablecoin platforms, they've got a lot of Tether, a lot of Vigor, a lot of EOS DT. They're doing like debt swaps in the background. Dennis just shared some code in the Vigor liquidity group of like OTC stablecoin swaps, because to keep all the swap pools liquid, you have to make sure they're always balanced. And at the beginning of this call, I said how USDT is, it's the most liquid stable coin, but we don't have enough of it on EOS. So these arbitrage bots and these market maker bots are constantly rebalancing. And basically the tools are being built that kind of automate that stuff so that like, if you're like heavy on Vigor stable coins, it's going to swap them out and then you're going to reload with like USDT, for example, and you're able to basically fund all these different swap pools. And that's what we're starting to see too, is just a lot more swap pools, like Uniswap, like interfaces. Like people aren't making that comparison yet, because I don't think everyone is like, I don't know if everyone's paying attention to what's actually going on, but there's a project called DeFi Box, which sucked up 50% of the USDT liquidity as soon as it launched. And they basically have a mining token for liquidity mining, just like on Ethereum, where basically I lock up a bunch of ETH and some other token. And every time someone trades in that pair, I get a percentage of the fees, like in a token, like Compound or Balancer or whatever platform we're talking about. But there's one called DeFi Box right now that's basically doing that right now. And I think there's a lot of clones coming out. There's a synthetics-like platform called Organics that's using LiquidApps on the DAPP network. They're using the oracles. That's going to be launching. And also, like I said, EOS Finex. EOS Finex is going to be, it's a DEX. It's in beta right now. It should be launching in the next month, but it's tapped into the bitfinex, centralized bitfinex order books. So you're going to be able to make like tens of thousands of dollars in like an order and not create a bunch of slippage, and be able to draw that liquidity into the EOS ecosystem. And they're also moving their gold tether, which I'm excited about moving that onto EOS too, because I want to collateralize gold. I want to own gold on margin. I want to have that. And that's coming too. That's one of the tokens that it's already on bitfinex, but that's one of the ones that they have already announced for EOS Finex.
I feel like we've heard about EOS Finex for a while. You know, like, and it seems like, hey, yeah, it's coming, but like, when, you know, like, is there like a date? When are we like at the end of it? This is like the last stretch here, last mile, like
when ETH 2.0.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's blockchain, man. When has anyone ever hit a timeline and actually delivered on it? So EOS Finex had a really shitty launch last year. I bet their team would even admit that. They did a launch last July or August, and their platform kind of sucked. It had a lot of friction. It had its like own native token. It was on like some side chain, and it just didn't work real good. And they kind of just shut up about it, like worked for the next 9-10 months before ever like even saying that they're still working on it. And I thought it was a dead project. And then all of a sudden it started picking up life again, and they opened it up to beta testers. Now I got these people sending me like screenshots of it and videos of them using it and how awesome it is. And now I want to use it, but I'm US based, so I guess I can't use it.
Yeah, we're gonna hop out here for a second because I think we're getting up to the end of the episode. We did put out a tweet before the podcast that you retweeted. We got some people talking about it. We have Wes talking. Ryan Dennis commented on it, talking about Tron DeFi versus EOS DeFi. We had some DAPP listing, VIG listing questions. We had a one token, one vote, which we already kind of talked about. So do you want to address any of the topics that I just kind of mentioned there?
I can't really talk about a lot of those topics.
Yeah. So here's the question I'd ask. As far as DAPP network goes, if everything goes well, what does the timeline look like in 3 months, 6 months, and maybe a year? Because I know it's had this crazy price run up. We've seen a lot of more things kind of come out, but from someone who's uninitiated, who's not within DAPP, what does it look like in 3 to 6 months and then a year if everything does go well? So
there's a project called DAPP account. Which is one of my personal favorites. This is me speaking, not LiquidApps, but there's a project called DAPP account, which is built by Rahman Binlish from Blockstart. He runs one of the nodes on the network. But basically what this is going to be, you could already sign up for a blockchain account with just an email address or a phone number right now. So you don't have to manage keys. It's non-custodial and it's completely decentralized. And right now, today he just unlocked a feature where you could basically buy crypto with a credit card, and you could swap the EOS tokens that you buy on the credit card for DAPP. And he said that all the other tokens are going to come soon. So it kind of ties into the swap pools I was talking about, where you could basically swap in any pair. So that's going to tie in, I think, with this Ethereum and EOS bridge that we've been talking about, that we're going to deploy, or not that we're going to deploy, the DSPs are going to deploy. We wrote the code for it. I want to be very specific about that. But I think we're going to see basically ERC20 tokens being put into liquidity pools on EOS, where basically Chainlink's going to have volume no matter what blockchain it's traded on, whether it's traded on a centralized exchange, whether it's traded on like Coinbase, or whether it's traded on Uniswap, or whether it's traded on an EOS DEX or EOS swap pool. I don't think it matters. I think there's certain ERC20 tokens that are going to get lots of trade volume regardless of where they live. So I think that you're going to see with this bridge, I think you're going to see an enterprising company that's going to basically tokenize peg as many different liquid ERC20 tokens as they possibly can, and bring them over to EOS and create liquidity pools that are basically EOS on one side and then the ERC20 token on the other side. And I think we're going to see a lot of volume there. And I think that the cool thing about EOS is with the feeless transactions, you actually have some really interesting high frequency arbitrage going on that you can't do on Ethereum. Like you could make a trade on EOS for like a 50-cent profit or a 20-cent profit. Whereas on Ethereum, you have to make these really big trades to try to pull a profit with all the fees and stuff. I don't know if I answered your question, but I think liquidity is the number one thing that I see coming in and opening up. So Strong Block, which is basically a project that is a blockchain as a service project that basically spins up EOS IO chains for different enterprises as far as understand their product. But they launched a token a few weeks ago, and they were so smart because even though they're an EOS IO based everything project, they deployed an ERC20 token. And I think their market cap, their diluted, fully diluted market cap right now is over $1 billion. And the only thing that they did different than any of these EOS IO or EOS projects is they were smart enough to deploy it as ERC20s on Ethereum, because it all has to do with access to liquidity. We have, like I said, DeFi on Ethereum is a couple thousand whales, and they have so much money that they can't, like some of them don't want to pay taxes on it. So it's just all of their money's in crypto. Like they have to they just gamble with their crypto and they got to park it somewhere. Like that's why like it's like a shitcoin casino, because sometimes they're just like taking these flyers. They're just parking money. They have thousands and thousands of Ethereum and they just need somewhere to put it. And I think we're going to see more projects that want to do that. And like I said, there's, I can't name them, but there's at least 4 or 5 different projects that we've had conversations with. And as soon as the bridge is deployed, it's game on. There's going to be EOS tokens on Ethereum. There's going to be Ethereum tokens on EOS, and it's all going to be made possible because of the DAPP network bridge. And Ethereum is just the first chain. A lot of people are like asking about Polkadot and sometimes Solana, and like the technology could actually connect to any blockchain. Like we're focused on Ethereum right now because that has the biggest problem. Like Polkadot and Solana don't have transaction fee problems at the moment. So we're focused on Ethereum because that's where the highest need is. And I think we're going to see some really, really cool stuff with the bridge.
Amazing answer, Gall. That was absolutely fantastic, man. This episode has been fantastic. We could spend a whole episode talking about ICOAlert too, which we didn't really dive into as much as we probably would have liked. But I do have one question, because we had Rob on for NFT Alert at the time, and we asked him what his favorite time was at ICOAlert. So I want to get your, I think I said it for everything EOS, but I want to get your answer here for your favorite time at ICOAlert. What was it? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I mean, it wasn't like a time, it was a moment in time, but it was like the daily gaming sessions, man. It was like, it was kind of like college all over again. We had a Nintendo, was it an N60? What was it?
GameCube, I think. No,
a GameCube.
GameCube, yeah.
It was GameCube. Yeah, we had like the old school GameCube Super Smash Brothers, and just vibing with the team, man. It was like we all like had this really close bond because we didn't just work together. We played together. We went on trips together. We went to San Francisco. We went to Vail, Colorado. Went to, what the hell is that place called in Georgia?
Sea Island.
Sea Island, yeah.
Sea Island. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard to pick one moment, but I guess if I had to pick one spot, it would have been in that conference room that we recorded all the podcasts in and played all the video games in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I remember those golden times. But, I wasn't that good at video games. And as a matter of fact, when I was interviewing for ICOAlert, they made me play video game after it, and I absolutely got destroyed. So I was like, I'm definitely not getting this job. Like, these guys are not going to hire me because I'm terrible at this. So, I mean, it's good times, man. There's so many to name. Our trip to Munich was great.
The trip to Munich.
Yeah.
remember I riding in the car with Ivan?
Ivan, yeah. Well, as soon as Gall met Ivan, you couldn't separate those two. He was with him everywhere.
I actually got to hang out with him again in Korea
nice.
last October. I was at Korea Blockchain Week hanging out with Ivan a little bit.
Nice, man. Nice.
So the other moment was what was that shitcoin you held back whenever you're watching the congressional live stream?
Why'd you have to bring Substratum up, man?
Substratum, dude. Q was watching like this congressional hearing about DNS services or some shit. Trading shitcoins. There's the time I think bought like $200,000 of some horse racing coin.
Just doxing everyone here.
You could blur out his name if we don't want to give names here, but I didn't name the token. I just gave a general description of it. But yeah, like there were days in the office, man, where it just turned straight degen. Like if the markets were up 25%, there was no work getting done that day. It's just everyone had 3 monitors on, or at least 2 monitors on their desk, and one of the monitors for everyone in the office was a Binance screen that charts up.
Imagine if we had DeFi back then. It would be the same thing all over again.
Which is interesting because, given the market that we're in right now, like the bullish market, it seems like, in a bear market, everybody's heads down and working, building and doing all this stuff, right? But in bull market, sometimes like you feel like people take a seat back. They're like, all right, we raised funds, we're good. We'll have a timeline that stretches for a prolonged period of time. And there's no kind of urge. Do you see something like that, or do you see like people are still keeping up the pace, and like moving in this bull market as quickly as possible, kind of like not chilling because they did make money on some of these DeFi projects or whatnot?
I don't know. I know the people that have made money, they're just straight degen. Like they go from one project to the next. It's like a perpetuating cycle. One thing I did notice though was it hasn't been in the last week or like about a month ago, I got like 3 random messages from people I hadn't talked to in years about crypto. Have you guys gotten any of those recently?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like we talked about, I said how I don't know if retail is going to be as involved in this next bull run. I think retail will come in at like later in the bull run.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to hit all-time highs within I think by the end of this year. I think this time is different. But I say that every time, man. I've been rich, I've been poor so many times. We're probably all going to get wrecked and be homeless soon. But it feels different this time.
There's no bull like a Gall bull, man. I love when Gall is bullish as hell. So Gall, this has been a great episode. Guys, if you made it all the way to the end of the episode, thank you so much. I know this was kind of all around. Hopefully you guys.
This is a mess. Hopefully you guys do timestamps because this is a mess.
We definitely do.
Yeah, we do timestamps. Last question, Gall. Book recommendation. We always ask it of all of our guests. If you have a book recommendation, could be crypto, non-crypto. Before we let you go, what would it be?
I don't know, man. I was trying to look for one. I know I have one here. One sec. General chemistry, principles, and modern application.
Nice, man. Appreciate it.
Or I don't know why I got this randomly on my desk. I got a Dan Larimer.
Oh my
wow!
Hang that in the loop.
You don't see this stuff off screen.
That's OG
stuff. Got an energy drink graveyard, but dude, I read so much, but it's like I live 24/7 in Telegram, on Twitter. Like I definitely don't have the attention span for books. So,
what's the best newsletter to follow then?
Telegram is my spot, man. I'm everywhere in Telegram. But yeah, no long form books, man. Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome, man. Well, again, this has been a great episode. We got to do this again, like on a more recurring basis, man, because we could riff all day long. So if you want to kind of show your links here at the end of the episode, man.
I already showed them at the beginning. You could just show them in the description. But I think the next one, man, I think what we need to do is you got to come over to my channel and show layer 1 over there and tell everyone in EOS, like the topic, we could riff on all the ICOalert stuff, but let everyone in EOS know what's happening outside of EOS. How about that? Like everything but EOS episode.
I love that, man. With that, we can make that happen. We will for sure make that happen. Cool. 100%. So guys, again, great episode. Zach, thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you on everything EOS here in the next month, maybe.
Thanks.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to check out Layer 1 on all the audio and video platforms listed in the description. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next week.